This time last year, I was about to buy a Lotus, but the one that I'd lined up turned out to be a proper catfish of a car. Anyway, fast forward 6 months later, and guess who's bought one? Well, remember Tom? The lad with the stupidly modified Mark III RS and the GI Yaris? Yeah, him. And ever since he bought it, he's been absolutely hounding me to make a video on it, so here we are. I'm basically going to get a brief look into what Lotus ownership is all about. You know, how they drive, what they like to live with, and could you actually daily one if you were a complete nutter? He threw me the keys and all so I could try it out for myself, so hopefully I'm not a fan, because otherwise I'm going to end up in some crippling debt. I've kept you waiting long enough though, I think, so let's get into it. Now at the back end of last year, Lotus ceased production on the Elise, 𝙁𝘍𝙊𝙁 and the 𝙁𝑉𝑜RA to concentrate on the 𝙂𝙍𝑅A and a new generation of electric sports cars. They don't really interest me that much to be honest because, well, they're just not attainable for me at the moment, but the 𝙁𝘍𝑍s and the Elises in particular still are. Even though the prices of the S1s and the S2s have skyrocketed over the last few years, you can still easily find a load for sale online for under 30k, which believe me, isn't going to be the case for very long. You can pick up an S3 for around that budget too if you're lucky, but the majority of them probably will never dip below that number, and now they've stopped making them, I can only imagine the price of these things are going to start creeping up as well, so if you're wanting one, don't wait around. Tom didn't, and the price of his cup has already gone up, so he's laughing. Anyway, let's have a proper look at it then, eh? It's an Elise 220 cup, which is his Instagram username as well if you want to go drop him a follow. 0 to 60 takes 4.2 seconds from a 1.8 litre supercharged inline 4, which coincidentally makes 220 brake horsepower. You can see where they got the name from now, eh? It doesn't sound the best from the outside, it's a little bit quiet, even with that tubular exhaust, but it's loud enough when it's screaming a foot away from behind your lug hole. This car has the big aero kit on, just in case you didn't realise. I mean, look at that diffuser, and it's not like it's just there for show either. At 100 mph you get 66 kilograms of downforce, which is a massive difference to the normal Elise with only 5, the slippery little fish. You might be thinking 66 kgs doesn't sound like a great deal, but when you only weigh 930 to begin with, and you have some sticky semi-slicks underneath you, it's plenty enough. Now, we spent the best part of 4 hours driving around on a load of different roads so I could get a better feel of what this thing is like to drive, not only on a long run out, but on every road surface that the UK has to offer you. From fresh tarmac all the way down to the skinny rutted back lanes you find over in the moors when you get lost looking for a Ford, which we did eventually find. And let me tell you, they are far more comfortable than what I imagined. Yeah, you don't look that dignified getting in and out of one of these things with it being so low, but the damping soaks up any nasty potholes that you might miss when you're giving it the big licks. Not only that, but the aero was clear of touching any speed bumps too, so usability wise, it ain't half bad. Good job really when you see how much all of the aero bits are. Oh, Jesus. And speaking of cost, it might look exotic, but the prices to keep this thing maintained and on the road isn't that bad. It's only a small block, so servicing doesn't cost the earth, and because it's that light, you can consistently get 30 miles per gallon out of a tank, and that's mainly hooning it around. The Yokohama AD08 RS tyres are probably the most expensive things to replace at 180 quid a corner. But again, because the car is as light as a feather, you're not going to be wearing them down at the same rate as you might be in a performance car like a C63 or an M4. So, it might be cheap enough to run as a daily and practical enough to clear all the speed bumps and all the other obstacles littered across British roads, but realistically, you're not going to be using it every day, are you? It's going to be a toy for the weekends. I mean, Tom's just had a kid, so it's not exactly the best car to be transporting your pet sperm around in, is it? In fact, you can't anyway, because it doesn't have any ISO fixed points for a baby seat, so he just has to take the dog everywhere with him instead. Got your priorities right there, haven't you, Tom lad? You don't get much in terms of luxury inside the cab at all, but that's just typical Lotus, isn't it? To be fair though, this S-Cup doesn't feel as bare as previous Elises, even though they borrow quite a lot of the same interior parts. It might be comfy enough to sit in for a few hours, but what if you want to go away for a weekend and take the car? Does it have a boot with space to put a backpack in with enough gear to last you a few days? And the answer online says yes, but I just thought I'd nip to Asda and test it out myself. So after picking up everything you need for a good weekend away, I can confirm it all fits in with a bit of room to spare. Ideal. Anyway, this is where Tom threw me the keys and let me have a go for myself, and believe me, driving one of these things for the first time is a bit of a dream come true, to be honest. I've been in Ferraris, McLarens and other more exotic stuff than this before, but as far as being one with the car, as cliche as that sounds, I can't imagine it getting much better than this. The gear changes are sexual, especially going from 3rd to 4th. It's got to be up there with spending a night with Margot Robbie. Tom changed the oil to make it a little bit lighter of a shift, but it's still got a heavy mechanical feel to it, which just makes it feel so engaging to drive. He's also swapped out the steering wheel for a smaller one measuring about 280mm wide, which is just tiny, but the feedback you get through it is immense, and the front end grip you get with those sticky Yokos on is balmy. You can add an extra 10 miles an hour onto what you think might be the limit of a corner and it just flies around. Put it this way, you're going to be seeing your breakfast again before this thing decides to understeer. Unless of course you take it out on a cold damp morning, like we did, where it's basically like dancing on ice. Luckily for us though, the sun came back out to play and we went for a good old hoon, even if we did nearly reduce the sheep population by one. Whew, that was a close call. And all I can say is I need one. I need a Lotus in my life, they are just too fun. Maybe not exactly the most practical of cars, is it? But it's a toy at the end of the day, and it does its job of putting a smile on your face. Sorry about the lack of in-car footage, I might have broke my LOTUS Virginity that day, but Tom broke his recording V as well. Hence why there's not really as many clips as we thought of me driving, because he couldn't work the GoPro. There's 2 buttons on it, mate. I mean, what's so hard about that? But I just want to say a massive thank you for taking me out and letting me have a go, even if you have basically got me into about 40 grand's worth of debt, you bastard. It's not every day you get to take out something which is usually garaged for about 6 months of the year, so I really appreciate it. That's it for now though, so yeah, thanks for watching. Drop the video a like if you enjoyed it, and there's plenty more stuff on the channel for you to go and check out while I'm making the next one. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss that, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!